The New York Jets open the 2025 regular season in just 1 week from today when Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers come to MetLife Stadium. Today, I wanted to talk about an interesting bit of stats, a deep dive on the history of the last 8 years in the NFL, and prove just why the New York Jets can and will rely on their rushing attack to find long-term success. I'm fired up for this one. It's a Labor Day Sunday. Thanks for joining me. Let's get into it.
We want you to bring that here, all right? Go out there and press them and choke them out.
What's going on, Jets fans? It's your boy DT back. Quick Sunday live stream for you this morning. Hope everybody is enjoying their Labor Day weekend. I personally don't have too much of a Labor Day weekend. I had to work a half day yesterday, and I'm right back to work tomorrow. So want to squeeze in some time to talk to you guys about what's going to be happening this season, right? The New York Jets open their season in just 1 week from today, just a couple hours away from exactly 1 week until the season opens. I will be in attendance. So it's about 9 o'clock as I'm starting this live session. So I will be at MetLife Stadium exactly 1 week from today, partying it up at the tailgate with Tailgate Joe, all the Talking Jets guys, O'Leary, Ryan, Green Bean, so many more. So really looking forward to that. But today I wanted to come on and talk about what I think is going to be the Jets' bread and butter on their offense. It's no secret, right? Tanner Engstrand, Justin Fields, this entire offense as it's been constructed this spring and summer is going to be based on running the football. So today I went a little bit back to like 2018 when Patrick Mahomes had that 50-yard touchdown pass season. And I wanted to show how the league has changed quite a bit since that 50-yard or 50 passing touchdown season from Patrick Mahomes, how things become a little bit cyclical in the NFL. I understand people want to say on the surface it is a passing league. I will vehemently push back on that. I think as the passing had increased over the last 15 years, they saw a bit of a plateau, and now I think it's kind of going back the other direction into more of a run-centric NFL. And I'll show you why most of the teams that do run the ball successfully have the most long-term success in the NFL season by season. The first bit of information I wanted to pop up on the screen for those who are watching on YouTube, I appreciate it. I know it's a little bit hard to see some of these graphics on your phone. So as always, I will talk through it. The screen right now shows all of your 2024 playoff teams in the NFL. Obviously, you have 14 playoff teams. Just about half the league makes the NFL playoffs at this point with the new, bracket, how they have 7 instead of 6 from each division. So you're basically looking at half of the NFL as a sample size from last year. What I have is the ranking of each playoff team, run and pass, but this is based strictly off yardage only. So, for example, the Kansas City Chiefs team in the AFC East conference, 14th passing yards, 22nd in rushing yards. That's what we're looking at here. Just pass yards and rush yards. Not touchdowns, attempts, anything like that. Strictly yardage. So the Kansas City Chiefs, you will see they were ranked 14th in passing yards, 22nd in rushing yards. The Buffalo Bills at the second seed, they were ranked 9th in both passing and rushing yards. So a top 10 unit passing and throwing. The Baltimore Ravens, they were 7th in the league in passing, 1st in the league in rushing. The Texans, 21st passing, 15th rushing. Chargers, 19th and 17th. The Steelers were 27th in passing and 11th versus the run. Broncos were 20th in passing and 16th on the ground. So what that says to me, 5 out of your 7 teams, were better running the ball than they were passing the ball. And the Bills were tied. So they were basically, a very balanced unit. So basically 6 out of the 7 AFC playoff teams dominated on the ground, and that's where their success came from. And then the other option you have is Patrick Mahomes, who is, one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the NFL since Tom Brady left. So when you're looking at the AFC and how the Jets are going to compete, everything says you have to be able to run the ball successfully to make the playoffs in the AFC. Now you flip it over to the NFC side of things. You have Detroit at the first seed. They were second in passing, 6th in rushing. The Eagles, and this is something Jets head coach Aaron Glenn mentioned before, 32nd in passing, 2nd in rushing. The Buccaneers, great unit on both sides, 3rd in passing, 4th in rushing. The Rams, 10th in passing, 24th in rushing, so a big discrepancy there. The Vikings, 6th in passing, 19th in rushing, so a big gap there as well. The Commanders, 17th in passing, 3rd in rushing. And the Packers, 12th in passing, 5th in rushing. So, again, you're basically looking at a pretty even split here. 4 teams were better passing in the NFC. 3 teams were better when it came to rushing the football. Now, you look at the Detroit Lions, they were top 6 in both units. So, although they were one of the better passing teams in the league, right? Jared Goff had 4,600 passing yards. I think the Cincinnati Bengals were the only ones who were higher than the Detroit Lions in terms of passing yard output. They were still a top 6 run team. So even the teams that pass the ball, they want to run the ball. So I'm not going to say I excuse that or ignore that in the data set, but you look at teams like the Commanders, who were 17th in passing, so about league average, but they were top 3 in rushing. Same with the Packers. They were a little bit better than league average in passing, but they were a top 5 run offense as well. Eagles obviously is the biggest discrepancy, proving my point, and I don't want to just harp on only the Eagles in this scenario, but when you flip it over to the next slide here, it's going to show you all the divisional teams, and then the numbers kind of change a little bit, right? So we'll flip it over. Teams that lost in the first round were the Broncos, the Steelers, and the Chargers from the AFC. And it was the Bucks, the Vikings, and the Packers in the NFC. So now you see it's whittled down to only 8 teams, and you have basically a 5-3 split. 5 of the last 8 teams were better at running the ball than they were passing the ball. Again, the Buffalo Bills were 9th in both, so they're very balanced, but top 10 each, you still have to look at the rushing output. Looking at the first best rushing offense, the second and third best rushing offense, all making the playoffs and getting to the second round. There are a couple teams that will stand out in the data set here, like the Cincinnati Bengals. They were first in passing offense, and they didn't make the playoffs. The San Francisco 49ers were 4th in passing offense, and they didn't make the playoffs. Atlanta was 5th in passing, and Seattle was 8th in passing. Those were the top 10 units in passing yardage that didn't make the playoffs. And then the top 10 units in terms of rushing that didn't make the playoffs. The Arizona Cardinals were 7th, the Indianapolis Colts were 8th, and the Atlanta Falcons were 10th. So that says to me, if you are a top 10 rushing offense in the NFL, you have a 7 out of 10 chance based on last year's data set to make the playoffs this year. Now, you flip that to the Jets. Can the Jets be a top 10 rushing offense in 2025? My personal belief is I think they can be. Do I think that strictly running the ball and being a top 10 rushing unit is going to get them to the playoffs? No, you can't be the Eagles, right? You can't be the 32nd best in passing and second in rushing and still make the playoffs. A very different team than the New York Jets, obviously. They have a lot more talent on both sides of the ball than the Jets do. Not to say the Jets could never be the Eagles. But I don't want to think that just because the Eagles did it with such a high discrepancy that being the Jets, could mirror that and take that to the playoffs. I'm looking at a team more like the Commanders, right? They were about league average in passing, 17th, but they were third in the NFL in terms of rushing yardage. I think that would be closer to what the Jets could give you, right? Justin Fields is about league average in terms of passing. I'm not saying he is, I'm just projecting, right? So if Justin Fields was about league average in terms of passing, maybe even you're the 20th best passing offense. If you're a top 10 rushing offense in this league, you have a much higher chance of making the playoffs. Obviously, the Atlanta Falcons are a bit of an outlier in totality because they were the 10th best rushing attack and the 5th best passing attack in terms of yardage output, and they didn't make the playoffs. So obviously it's not a guarantee if you do all these things that you're going to make the playoffs. But when you're talking about a league that is very cyclical, yes, it was a pass-heavy league from about 2012 to maybe 2021, right? That second COVID year when fans weren't in attendance and we saw a spike in passing offense once again. I still think it's been trending more towards a rushing league. And as the linebackers got smaller on defense, the running backs got bigger on offense, and they've been proven that they want to run the ball against these lighter boxes and smaller linebackers. So the next data set that I have is, in fact, comparing 4,000-yard passers to 1,000-yard rushers since Patrick Mahomes' 50-touchdown season in 2018. So this next chart here, and this one might be a little bit easier for people to see, this is basically a line chart comparing exactly that, 4,000-yard passers to 1,000-yard rushers. As you can see, the 1,000-yard rushers would be the red line in the chart, and the 4,000-yard passers are the blue line on this chart. So you can tell just based off the data and just the visual representation that the blue line is on a downward trajectory. And the red line is a bit more of a volatile projection, but more often than not, since 2018, there have only been 2 seasons where the passing output in terms of 4,000-yard passers was higher than 1,000-yard rushers. So the obvious one was when Patrick Mahomes threw the 50 touchdowns in 2018. There were 12 4,000-yard passers to only 9 1,000-yard rushers. Then you have to go all the way to the 2 COVID years in 2021, where there were no fans in the and like Aaron Rodgers, who were throwing 40-plus touchdowns to only 5 interceptions because they were able to dictate things better at the line of scrimmage when there is no noise in the stadium. So the 2 COVID years, there were 12 4,000-yard passers to 9 1,000-yard rushers in 2020, and then 10 4,000-yard passers to 7 1,000-yard rushers in 2021. Other than that, there have been more rushers than passers in terms of elite level production, right? Even the last 3 years alone, there were 16, 12, and then 16 in terms of 1,000-yard rushers, where the most in that 3-year span, there were only 10 4,000-yard passers in a season, right? 9 in 2022, 10 in 2023, and then only 6 last year in 2024. So when you break that down over the last 7 seasons, you only have 10 average 4,000-yard passers per season, and you have 12.1 average 1,000-yard rushers per season. So again, this is basically promoting that boring football can still lead to success, right? We know the Jets are going to be dominant running the football. They showed it in the preseason. They had 40 attempts against the Giants, 33 attempts against the Eagles, against the 40 against the Packers, 33 against the Giants, 28 against the Eagles. So they all went down game over game, but it still averages out to about 30 to 32 rushing attempts per game. And on a, 70 to 75 play sample size, which is about an average offense in the NFL. You're getting about 70 to 75 plays per game. And then you're rushing the ball 30 to 32, maybe sometimes 35 of those 70 to 75 plays. So you're a very balanced offense in terms of how I project the Jets to be this year. Maybe it's a 55% run pass split, so they're leaning a little bit more on the run. But I don't think this is going to be a situation where they're running the ball 80 to 85 times a game. Obviously, there might be a game plan against certain teams where they want to, dictate the line of scrimmage and dominate on both sides of the ball in the trenches. Would definitely like to say that it's going to be more of a balanced attack, but when they run the ball, I think it's going to look a lot better than it has in years past. So all of this information to say that running the ball is not going to be a bad thing for the Jets, right? And we understand it's always fun to watch Justin Fields sling it all over the yard. I don't know if he's capable of doing that at the NFL level yet. I just think that there's enough of a sample size for him that I'm not going to, immediately assume that this coaching staff is going to make him some Jared Goff level passer where he's eclipsing 4,000 yards. That's not the case. I think they're going to tell you they want to run the ball with all of their backs. Justin's going to be involved in the rushing attack as well. And if there are games where Justin throws 8 to 12 times through the air, that might actually help the Jets win more football games. I don't think there's going to be situations where Justin Fields is throwing the ball 30 to 34 times a game and the Jets are finding sustainable success. That probably means they're behind in the football game, down multiple scores. They're not able to rely on that rushing attack. So the closer they can keep this game to these games to neutral game scripts, right, within a one-score lead either way, they're going to be leaning on rushing the ball. Excuse me. We saw the drive in practice. It was 14 plays. It was capped off by a nice slant pass to Garrett Wilson. But of those 14 plays, they ran the ball 9 times. They also had the drive against the Giants that we all know about, 12 plays, 10 designed runs, and then 1 even quarterback scramble from Justin Fields. So they're telling you outright that they want to run the ball as much as possible. So it's really going to put the onus on the 5 guys up front, right? Fashanu, Simpson, Tittman, AVT, and Membu to really, hone in on their run blocking game and become the bullies up front that are going to take advantage of these trenches and dominate at the line of scrimmage. But if that's the formula for the Jets in 2025, I don't hate it, and I'm not going to write off the entire season. Now, do I want to see an offense that's able to adjust and that can pass the ball when they need to? Absolutely. I want to see that. I do also want to see what happens when the Jets have a bit of a lead, right? Can they actually dominate on the ground and chew up clock and continually get first down after first down, keep the chains moving, keep the defense on the sidelines? I think that's going to be an offense. So I did a little bit of a breakdown of Tanner Engstrand for the members only communities, all of those who joined the A1 since day one. First of all, thank you guys for becoming a member of the channel. I put out a video. It was just 2 small clips of the Detroit Lions from 2023, Tanner Engstrand's first year as the pass game coordinator in Detroit. And they ran a lot of pre-snap motion that made the defense think run the ball. And then they were able to not only have success when they did run the ball in those looks, but then they turned around and they had RPO pass options off of that, where they were throwing little bubble screens to the opposite side of the field. So they're really going to get the defense, confused, right? And off their landmarks, right? They're going to have motion pre-snap that's going to dictate the second level of the defense, where they're going to come back and show you a different look completely off of it. Video I put out for the members only, quick 10-minute video, but anybody who is a member can check that out, and I certainly hope you guys do check it out and consider becoming a member. I know the tier is $4.99, which I know Alan's in the chat. He said it was about $4 too much for my memberships, but I am going to prove that the $5 membership is totally worth it. You're going to get exclusive film breakdowns, both college and NFL breakdowns. So it's definitely worth, considering becoming a member. Gifting those memberships definitely will go a long way to helping the channel as well. So that video I put out, it leads to believe that Tanner Engstrand is going to have a creative offense that if you can run out of those looks, it's going to open up the creativity for your offense even more, right? So that's the big thing for me, is what do the pre-snap alignments and formations look like? What motions can Engstrand use not only to disguise the look that they're doing offense, but also to give Justin Fields a better pre-snap vision of what might happen post-snap, because that's a huge determining factor, right? Aaron Rodgers didn't like motion, but when you had Mike LaFleur and Zach Wilson, they ran motion a ton because it allowed Zach to say, okay, this could be a zone look, this could be a man look, based on what happens when we put a guy in motion. So I think motion is certainly going to help with the predictability or unpredictability of this offense, as well as the versatility of this offense. You're able to use more of your tight ends and wide receivers interchangeably if they're going to be blockers in the run game as well. So I think bringing back the pre-snap motion and showing a different look off of the same pre-snap formations and motions is going to be huge. So certainly consider checking out that video I put out for the members only. And speaking of members only, we have our first membership of the day, JoJo, one wonderful listener, both on my show and Jake's show. She has become the newest member of the A1 since day one community. So shout out to you, JoJo. I greatly, greatly appreciate that. And we're not done. Here we go. Mother effing Chew coming in, becoming a member of the A1 since day one community as well. You guys are awesome. And we still have one more. Wow, look at this. G-Man, the prophet for Jets football. He has gifted a membership to the channel. I will have to go on YouTube and open up that link to see who received that channel membership. So just give me 1 second. I appreciate that. JoJo, Mother effing Chew, G-Man, the prophet. You guys are awesome. Let me pull up my video here on YouTube, see who got that channel membership. I wish StreamYard just told me who got the membership in the chat. It would make it a lot more easier so I don't have to have 18 tabs open. So as I pull that up, I will turn it over to your questions. Do you guys think that the Jets will be able to find sustained success using the rushing attack? Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, even Keenan Nwangu, obviously Justin Fields using his legs as well. What are your thoughts on the rushing attack as a whole, and how do you think it's going to help or potentially hurt the New York Jets? So drop it in the comments below. I'm only going to be live for maybe about an hour and 15 total. I know Jake's going on at 10:30, so I want to make sure that he has the platform at 10:30, and I will, I'll wrap it up a little bit earlier than that. But I definitely wanted to come on and get my thoughts. It's a holiday weekend. I know everybody's probably got partying and stuff that they want to do, relaxing one last weekend by the pool. So I wanted to come on a little bit early and talk to you guys about my thoughts with the rushing attack and how I think it's going to go. So with that, we'll open it up to some questions. The first thing we see in the comment section, our boy Ricky New York Live. First of all, shout out Ricky New York and his Florida State Seminoles yesterday on their big win against the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm not going to say who I was rooting for in that game. I'm not really a fan of either team, but it is always very exciting when the underdog can not only win, but dominate in the way that Florida State did. So, Ricky New York, I hope you are, alive and well this morning, smoking and debating all of your Seminoles ass kicking that they did last night. Ricky says, what is going to happen week 1 versus Pitt is the same thing that happened to Bama yesterday. Your history don't make you who you are today. JETS. Absolutely, Ricky. I think it was a combination of both things, right? Florida State being 2-10 last year, everybody writing them off and not thinking that they could be anything this year. You open the season against a powerhouse or a former powerhouse in the Alabama Crimson Tide, who they don't they don't have a lot of talent on offense outside of like Ryan Williams and a couple offensive linemen. I've never really was a big fan of Ty Simpson, but yeah, to suffocate the Crimson Tide the way that Florida State did yesterday was really impressive. And good things for Mike Norvell's crew down in Florida State. I'm really excited for them. They had a tough year last year, and to go from almost making the playoffs with Jordan Travis a couple years ago to then, having a really bad season with Uiagalelei last year, it was really good to see them kick the shit out of Alabama. Peg and Artie in the chat, the ultimate two-piece of the community. What's up, guys? Appreciate you guys tuning in. Ricky, yeah, Super Bowl champ, second in rushing, dead last in passing, 100%. And I'm not saying they have to, mimic that mold, but there is a chance that the Jets are going to be closer to the Eagles than they would be of the Chiefs when they were on their run, where they're more pass happy than run happy. Georgie, the chump in the chat. What's up, man? I appreciate you tuning in. Alan, B-. I appreciate it. Whatever. We'll get it up there. I know my Garrett Nussmeier film review will probably bump up my letter grade a little bit. And here we go. Alan couldn't hold himself. Nussmeier showed me a lot last night to win in Death Valley. Yeah, of the quarterbacks that I watched last night, just based on the ones that I watched on film. So you're talking about Klubnik, Aller, Nussmeier, Sellers didn't perform yet. I would say Nussmeier was probably the second best, right? Drew Aller, he played Nevada. So I want to say, pump the brakes with the competition he played against. But Nussmeier, man, he had some really good throws, some dimes in the bucket for LSU. Even the one that was called a catch and down at the 1 and then was ruled incomplete upon review. That was a drop in the bucket from Nussmeier. So I was really impressed by how he could sling it in Clemson last night. So he was definitely the second best, probably after Drew Aller. And then Cade Klubnik, he did okay. He had some pretty errant throws that I wasn't in love with. Think he can clean up his performance. And then we'll see Lenoris Sellers today. So all 22 Drew, what's up, man? I appreciate you tuning in. He said, I'm confident we could be Eagles light, maybe. Yeah, if it's not like the Eagles light, could it be, like somewhere between the Eagles and the Lions version, right? Like the ShopRite Lions, right? The bowl and basket Lions for all those who shop at ShopRite. I think that's kind of what I'm going for. We seem to have a lot of the personnel similarities. I'm not saying they're one-for-one exchanges, but like Garrett Wilson to Amon-Ra, Mason Taylor to Sam Laporta, Arian Smith to Jamison Williams. Like you can see the blueprint of how you get to be the ShopRite Lions. But yeah, I'm not necessarily as confident that they'll be a lighter version of the Eagles, but that's what they're going to try to mimic, right? They're going to eliminate the opportunity to turn the ball over in the air with bad decision-making from their quarterback. They're going to utilize his legs when it makes sense to. So I do think from a schematic standpoint, this is probably closer to what we'll see, but I would love to see if it's closer to even like the Lions, who were very, very successful passing the ball as well. Yeah, and Drew follows up and says, like, not as good, but still having success with that similar philosophy and play style, 100%. You're going to see 12, 13 personnel, right, utilizing your tight ends, left wide receivers on the field, and they're just going to try to bully you up front. And I think for the most part, the Jets can play bully ball. Yeah, and it's not boring, right, Drew? I just think when people talk about running the ball a lot, they correlate that with boring football. I don't think it's boring when your big nasties up front are dominating and pushing people out of the club. So I'm certainly a fan of this style of football being played, because we saw it in the inverse, right? Aaron Rodgers had the second most passing attempts in the season last year, and he was like 12th in passing yards, and we won 5 games. So I think there's certainly a path where things look different, both on the field and in terms of success. I'm still trying to pull up. YouTube is being super slow for me. I'm still trying to pull up who has that gifted membership. Let's see what we got. Oh, Ricky New York got the membership from G-Man the Prophet. So shout out to Ricky. joining the A1 since day one community. I really wish StreamYard would just tell me on the stream who got these memberships, because it's a lot easier than having to scroll back and forth. But thank you, G-Man, again for the gifted membership, and welcome Ricky New York to the A1 since day one community. G-Man comes in and says, all rise, let's get it, Dylan. Yes, sir. Happy to have everybody with me on a Sunday morning. Alan says, when push comes to shove and the Jets need Fields to complete a 3rd and 7 pass in the fourth quarter of the tight game, I wouldn't hold my breath. Okay, yeah, no, that's completely fair. I would say that the likelihood of a 3rd and 7 being completed by the Jets is probably not favorable right now based on what we've seen from Justin Fields. But to play devil's advocate, although I do agree with you on the surface, right? If you just peel back some layers of the onion, it depends, again, what yard line are they on? Because if they're on the plus side of the field, not necessarily like fringe field goal range, right? And depending on the score, again, you said it's a tight game. Are they down 3 or are they down 6 or 7 points, right? Like, what is the situation? Because on 3rd and 7, yeah, Justin Fields might have to drop back to pass it, but can he scramble for 4 or 5 yards and set up a 4th and 3, a 4th and 2, where it's a little bit more manageable for your offense? So, yes, I do agree that asking him to become a very good passer is not necessarily conducive to good success. But I think a lot of times in these 3rd and, medium situations, there's the element of him just taking off and running too. So just to play devil's advocate, but I do on the surface agree that if Justin Fields has to throw the ball on 3rd and long, it's probably not going to be great for the team. Yeah, Drew basically saying what I'm saying, get 4 or 5 yards and go for it on 4th down. Love the aggression. Appropriate expectations for Fields is important. Yeah, and that's true too, right? We can't be looking at Justin Fields through the lens of he's a dominant passer, right? He's going to be Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be closer to like early career Jalen Hurts, right? Where he's going to take off and run when it makes sense, but he's going to also be smart about his throws. He's going to try to limit his turnover worthy plays. All right, we got some big boomers in here. We got Nick Shine with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Nick. I will be on with Nick Shine later tonight around 8 o'clock on his channel to review all the things we talked about leading up to the training camp and preseason for the Jets. So I'm really looking forward to that one, to kind of put a bow on, late July and August for the Jets. What did we think was going to happen? Did we see what we thought was going to happen? So really excited to join Nick tonight. Everybody tune in to him. Give him a subscribe. He's looking to get to 1,700 before the season starts. We're looking to get to 1,000 before the season starts over here. I'm at a little over 850, so I would love it if everybody could smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and then tune in later to watch Nick and I chop it up. Appreciate you, Nick. Thank you so much. He said, I can't gift memberships from the phone. Wanted to show some love. Congrats and keep up the good work. Thank you. I know gift memberships are a little confusing with the phone, right? I think Apple can't, but Android can, or however that works. I'm not sure, but I certainly appreciate this regardless, Nick. Thank you so much. And then Alan with a 99-cent super sticker. Thank you, Alan. If you have a comment you wanted to attach to that, I can also bring it up on the screen. I usually bring up your comments a lot. Mostly disagreeing, but we'll see. All right, we're going back into the chat. See what else we got here. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Rich is in the chat. I appreciate you. 3 siblings in the chat. What's up, man? I appreciate you tuning in. What else do we got? 3 siblings says Clemson just collapsed, man, as soon as they missed that field goal. Yeah, and they had opportunities to win, right? When LSU had that play reversed at the 1-yard line, and then it was 3rd and 11, and then they had to settle for a field goal that was absolutely wide left. So it was definitely Clemson's game, and Clemson had the opportunity to win that game several times, and it just didn't happen for them. But I think they'll bounce back. I think Clemson's still going to be a really good team. Alan says, Mateer, this is John Mateer from Oklahoma. He was fun to watch yesterday. Gives him Baker Mayfield vibes. Yeah, John Mateer was fun. I forget who they played. It was like kind of lower level competition, right? They won, I think it was 31-3 or 35-3. They were up early, dominating. He had 3 touchdown passes, over 300 yards passing through the air. So Mateer is certainly one that I think people are going to have to watch, including myself, watch a little bit more as we get closer to the season, because he's definitely not going to go away, and he'll be up there with, the top of the board at the quarterback position. Palikar joining with a good question. He said, good morning. Do you anticipate a steep learning curve for the defense, communication issues, assignment mistakes, etc.? I don't think I anticipate a steep learning curve, because a lot of what Wilkes does is fairly similar to the solid defense, right? They replaced Steve Wilkes with Rob Saleh in San Francisco and still went back to a Super Bowl. It's just the more man principles and the blitzing and the aggression, like that's the stuff to me that I think is going to be a little bit different. But it seems like, the linebackers and the safeties and the corners, the guys who are being asked to blitz more, it seems like they're picking it up pretty well. Does that mean that there won't be any of these issues? No, I think there will be things to iron out during the season, but I don't think it's going to be like detrimental, right? Like where the communication issues lead to huge plays. I don't even think that the play against the Giants, the long pass to Bo Collins, I don't even think that was a communication issue. I literally think that was just Andre Cisco anticipating the wheel route coming open to the bottom of the screen, and the post route just, what's the word? Like counteracting what Cisco was doing. So it was a very good play call by the offense, but also I think that was just Cisco being in the wrong spot. So yeah, you're going to have those elements of like one player not doing their job on a play, but can you limit that to not allow that to ruin your entire game? Three siblings, he says, damn, Dylan, that's from 30 minutes ago. I don't know what you're in reference to. Maybe it was the fact that I pulled up the membership really late, but every time I pull up a new tab on my computer, I don't want to lag out, and I know StreamYard gives me issues. So it's one of those things that I just have to keep more tabs open and keep eyes on that. But I just wish StreamYard showed who got the damn membership. Just make it easy for once. For once, StreamYard, make it easy to do our jobs. Georgie in here, bold-faced lying, calling Alan the GOAT. I'm just kidding, Alan. You're appreciated around here. Let's see. Daniel Meehan, excuse me. I believe you're a Dolphins fan, so shout out to you for joining the streams. I appreciate that. He said, Dylan, you made some good points, but failed to mention that teams are going to stack the box. No wideout 2 or 3. Pre-snap motion is on the downside. Comparisons to Eagles or Lions is doubtful. Yeah, there's definitely the element of stacking the box against the Jets. That's going to be crucial, right? If you're Tanner Engstrand, how do you scheme up plays for Justin Fields and this offense to mitigate 7, 8, 9-man boxes? I don't think you're going to see a ton of 9-man boxes, but you certainly could see an 8-man box, right? Pittsburgh could put their 2 corners, Joey Porter and Jalen Ramsey, on islands to the boundary, and then you can have a free safety over the top, and you can just run, those 3 versus the 8 in the box. So it's really going to be on Engstrand to scheme up plays when he sees a heavy box to, all right, let's throw a little bubble screen to Garrett Wilson, or, a quick hitting pass concept to get your guy out in space to mitigate the 8-man box. So yeah, there is the element of that, but this isn't like stacking the box against Zach Wilson when the Jets, were bad under Zach Wilson. It's going to look completely different, right? There's going to be the respect for Fields and the outside run game, right? You can stack the box, but that's really only going to help you if you can, plug the middle, like the A and B gaps, or scrape off the C gaps around the edge rushers and really contain on the edges. So I do think there's going to be an element of Tanner Engstrand needing to adjust to this, but I also think he can do it. And I think the wide receivers that we have, obviously Garrett Wilson's going to be your main hitter in space if you're trying to get the ball out quick. But Arian Smith has proven that he is a pretty fluid runner at the wide receiver position, to the point where he can win in short areas, quickness, and create separation within 5 to 7 yards of the line of scrimmage. So I don't want to say that, okay, you stack the box against the Jets and they can't do anything. I do think there's going to be wrinkles that alleviate that pressure and allow, defenses to be more on their heels and think twice about trying to load up the box. Gil in the chat says, good morning, Jets fam. Appreciate you, Gil, for tuning in. Georgie with the 199 super chat. He said, might have to skip Nick Shine show tonight. Laughing emoji. Why would you skip Nick Shine show? I mean, he's got plenty of good analysis. I mean, you're obviously coming to show up for me being the guest, but why would you do that to Nick Shine, man? He's a good guy too. He doesn't deserve that. I'm just busting on you, Georgie. I appreciate it. I know I'll see you in there later tonight. Thank you for the $2 super chat. That's awesome. Gil said, I know Ricky was losing his shit yesterday during that upset. Yeah. And then he replies, I sure was. Absolutely. That's I actually fell asleep for like the first quarter and a half of that game, and I woke up and it was just such a lopsided game, and Ty Simpson's running for his life. So definitely intrigued by Florida State, but I know Alabama was a little bit, they had lofty expectations just kind of because they're Alabama, right? So good for Florida State for taking it to him. And Thomas Castellanos, I think that's his first name, the quarterback for Florida State, putting his money where his mouth is. That's awesome. Saying that this isn't, Saban's Alabama, and they're not. That was awesome. Peganardi talking about DJ Lagway in the chat. Yeah, he had another good game. That one wide receiver too. Oh, I forget his name. He had a great catch down the sideline, Odell Beckham-esque type catch for that Florida wide receiver. But yeah, Florida put on a bit of a clinic yesterday. I don't think he's a 2026 draftee, though. I think he's more 2027. Oh, there we go. Alan putting it in the chat. Yeah, he's definitely 2027. Tony DeGM says, Aller is quarterback 1. I knew this was going to happen. Somebody, I think it was 3 siblings, put Arch Manning as a fraud in the chat. This is week 1, folks. We got a long season ahead of us, both college and NFL. I'm not ready to write off anybody yet, but if you are looking at just one single game performance, Drew Aller did look the part against probably the worst competition, right? Arch Manning went up against the best defense in the league. Drew Aller went up against Nevada. Let's put that into context here. It's a big difference. Nussmeier, he had a really good game against a top 10 ranked opponent in Clemson. So, I would weight Garrett Nussmeier's performance a little bit higher than Drew Aller's even. Ricky New York says, if we have to draft a quarterback, I want Sellers. He is very much like Fields talent-wise. If he can elevate the mental part of his game, he is 100% our guy. Yeah, Sellers is somebody I gravitate towards, being somebody who lives in South Carolina now. I think if I had to choose between the realistic options, I'd say it's between Klubnik or Sellers. I don't think we'll be in contention for Nussmeier. I really think he's going to go close to 1 or 3, maybe top 3 in the draft. So, again, a lot of season left to be played out, but I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to be out of our range unless we absolutely suck this year. And I don't anticipate being that bad. Let's see. Yeah, here Alan says, I bet that Sellers will be the number 1 quarterback drafted. There's a very good chance that based on his traits, his physicality, his athleticism, the way he can run the ball, but also when he's scrambling in the pocket, keep his eyes downfield to throw the ball. I'm really intrigued by Lenore Sellers for sure. And I think that he has a really good chance of being the number 1 quarterback drafted. NFL teams, they fall in love with traits. I'm not going to compare him to Anthony Richardson, but when you look at a guy like Anthony Richardson, he went 4th overall in the draft. I think it's pretty easy to say right now, I believe at least Lenore Sellers is more talented than Anthony Richardson. So that's just going to be more for the evaluators and what they see in Sellers. But this is definitely something I can agree with, Alan. He says, I hope Sellers enjoys Cleveland or New Orleans. Yeah, it's funny, right? Those seem to be the two teams jockeying for the number one pick right now based on, preseason expectations, the lack of quarterbacks that they have currently. But then, a lot of people put the Jets into this bucket of Cleveland and New Orleans. And I think we're a couple steps ahead of them. I think we're up there with like the Patriots and maybe the Falcons or the Panthers of the world, right? We're like one tier ahead of competing for the number one pick. Obviously, things could go terribly wrong. We've seen this before, but I don't anticipate if Sellers was the number one pick, I don't think you are in contention if you're the Jets. Charleston Jets Roof says DT live. I love it. Appreciate you, Charleston. Hope everything is going well for you. Looks like a really nice day out, so I'm sure you're enjoying your balcony naked right now, CJR. I appreciate you. Yeah, no, I was just saying in terms of like their roster, Alan, like how I compare the Jets like roster construction. Like we're in that same tier of the Falcons where like we're young and intriguing, right? We have a lot of pieces that could be a lot of fun, but we need to figure out what those pieces really are. And I think the Falcons are the same way. But I'm excited to watch Lenore Sellers today, 3:00 against Virginia Tech. That's one I certainly will be tuning into because I said Cam Ward was probably looking at being the number one pick when he transferred from Washington State. And then it ended up, or from when he transferred from Incarnate Ward, to Washington State. Glenn and I on Jet Nation, we both said Cam Ward is the guy to watch. And he only proved from Washington State, then to Miami, why he deserved to be the number one overall pick. So if I had to guess right now, it'd be Lenore Sellers. And I'm really excited for him to play later on today. All right, back in the chat. What else we got? Charleston says definitely, yeah, it's a great day. I'm thinking I might go play some golf today. I haven't played golf in a couple weeks, and I know that if I don't play golf today, that I will be very, very busy for the next couple months and won't be able to play. So I'm thinking I might go out and play 9 holes today. It's looking too nice to be sitting inside all day. Daniel says the Jets' conundrum is they want to be a wild card, but they need a quarterback. Yeah, I mean, you definitely need a quarterback to make the playoffs. You need a good coach. You need a good system. I guess we'll find out if they have the quarterback with enough ability to get them to the playoffs. But I think that there's, a situation where Justin Fields is just good enough, to get the Jets to the playoffs. Maybe he's not, Mark Sanchez when they make it to the playoffs, because we know Sanchez kind of turned it on in those playoff games. But if you have a quarterback, at least from my expectations of Justin Fields, if he's the 18th best quarterback in the league, there's a really good chance that you could be contending for a wild card. Do you secure the wild card spot? Probably not. It probably takes all of the luck and then some to flip you into a playoff team after the disaster that it was last year. But I don't think, the Jets rooting for a wild card spot this year with what they have would be bad expectations at all, because say they become 8-9, right? I'm projecting 7-10, but say they go 8-9, they miss the playoffs by a game, right? They couldn't beat Buffalo in that final week to secure a spot at 9-8. Next season in 2026, even if you keep Justin Fields, the expectation is going to be, okay, now you're breaking the playoff drought. You're getting into the playoffs in 2026. And then you evaluate how far do you go from there and what do you do with Justin Fields? So, Alan's going on a date tonight, ramen and axe throwing. So we won't have him on Nick Shine's show. That's going to be a bummer, Alan, but I do hope you enjoy your date, ramen and axe throwing. That's quite the combination. Charleston, which two quarterbacks are you speaking about? Nussmeier and Klubnik? Or are you talking about like Arch? or who are you talking about? I think you're talking about Nussmeier and Klubnik, but I think Nussmeier did play a lot better than Klubnik did. Oops. Alan says Jets 6-11 top 8 pick. I have them at 7-10. So you're talking about, maybe 3 spots different, right? We're probably picking top 12 to 15 in my opinion, just based on a 7-10 record. But I think if things go well, right, if everything falls in place for the Jets, you could be looking at an 8 or 9 win season. I'm just not there yet. I'm at 7-10. The old Robert Saleh special, 7-10. But even if they get to 7-10, it's going to look drastically different than this 5-12 team from a year ago. So I think 7-10 would be okay, given how I anticipate it looking. Oh, Daniel, you were talking from a perspective of drafting a quarterback. Okay, yeah. You can always trade up, though, right? The Bills did it when they broke the playoff drought with Tyrod Taylor and they got Josh Allen. The Jets did it when they went up and got Sanchez, right? They traded up for their quarterback. So there's always, maneuverability to get up and go get your guy. But yeah, you can't be, picking 18th to 20th and anticipate getting the guy that you want. Alan says Nico Iamaleava needs to be emancipated from his dad. Yeah, that's the UCLA quarterback who transferred out of Tennessee. I didn't see the final score of the game. I know that they were struggling. Utah was taking it to them. Devin Dampierre, their quarterback over in Utah, is pretty damn good. I like him. Obviously not as like an NFL caliber prospect, but just as a college quarterback, it was fun watching Dampierre. So, yeah, Nico and UCLA definitely struggled. I didn't see the final score, but it was like 21 or 20-0 when the last time I looked at the score. Charleston, I would say that Nussmeier looked a little bit more like an NFL-ready quarterback. But again, this is week 1. And if we're going to evaluate the entire career of 2 quarterbacks, and I know you're not doing this, but I'm saying Arch Manning is a bust, right? He's getting drafted lower than where Quinn Ewers was based on his performance yesterday against one of the best defense, in my opinion, in the nation. So I would say no, neither showed us last night that they're worthy of the number 1 pick, but Nussmeier had a ton more throws than I thought Klubnik did that stood out to me that were like, wow, okay, Nussmeier could be onto something and could really be something at the next level with some of those throws. Palikar, I think that's fair. Preparing for a rough start to the season and for vicious fan backlash over it. There are fans who are already unleashing their frustrations on the team, and rightfully so. We're beaten down as a franchise, as a fan base. We have seen way too much losing in our time as Jets fans. Whether you're, Connor Long's age at 15 or 14 and never seen a playoff team, or if you're my age at 30 and you haven't seen a playoff team since you were in high school and could barely really remember it because you were too much of a, you're dicking around too much in high school to pay attention to the Jets. So like, or you're 55 years old, 60 years old, and you only remember the good days from like the late 80s, early 90s, and then the Parcells years. Like we're beaten down as a fan base. So it's not, I don't want to say it's unwarranted if there is fan backlash. Right now, if I was projecting the season, I would say the Jets are at best 3-5 by the bye week in week 9. So if you can get to 3-5, I think you kind of avoid all of the backlash. But if you're 2-6, that's not a good look either. So it's going to be tough. And the rough start to the season is certainly not going to help the Jets in any way. Oh, wow. Alan, the final was 43-10 Utah. Whew, that's a rough one. Yeah, Charleston, that's fair. I don't think I would say I came away completely impressed with anybody either. I think Lenora Sellers has a chance today to be the most impressive of the quarterbacks that, are toward the top of the board, the ones that I've watched, like Aller, Klubnik, Sellers, Nussmeier. I think Sellers has a good chance to be the best or the most impressive, I should say, of those 4 this weekend. Yeah, Alan, they got to win in week 1. That's a big win. That's a big statement game for them because then you go Buffalo and then at Tampa Bay. You can't start 0-3. We know what happens when you start 0-3. You just do not make the playoffs. It's just your percent chance is like under 10%. If you're even 1-1 going into that Tampa game, you at least have a hope. No Chris Godwin, no Tristan Wirfs. I know that they're still a very talented team, but I'll take pretty much any, advantage that the Jets can get early on in the season against some of these teams. But yeah, you can't start 0-3, so you have to start with a win in Pittsburgh, because I don't see you losing to Pittsburgh and then somehow beating the Bills the next week. It could happen, but the likelihood of that is super slim. So I agree. Week 1 is pretty much a must win to start the Aaron Glenn regime off nicely. Yeah, I don't know, Charleston. I don't know if I can say terrible, right? Like, he had some good throws. He had that really bad interception where he just sailed it over the head of the receiver in the seam route. I don't know if I want to say terrible. I'd have to go back and watch it completely again on the all 22 and see what happened. But they were both very rusty. Like, a lot of these teams are going to be rusty in their week 1 game. Obviously, Arch Manning was super rusty against Ohio State. Even Julian Sayin had a difficult start, so to speak. And Clemson's defense is good too, but it's a lot of rust being shaken off with these teams. But if you looked at some of the quarterbacks last year, these same ones, they didn't have great first 2 games of the season, but then by season's end, Drew Aller was like quarterback 2 in the 2025 draft class, which I still don't think that would have been a smart move for him. And going back was definitely good. Charleston says we're going to beat the Steelers and don't count us out against the Bills. I know it's early for him, but JJ owns Allen. Yeah, certainly. And the Bills, and more specifically Josh Allen, they seem to poop their pants Mekhi Becton style when they play in MetLife for some reason. I just don't understand how it happens, but something about Josh Allen in MetLife Stadium, you can get to him a little bit, right? When he's in Buffalo, he's just laughing at the Jets coming down the tunnel with the speaker on their shoulders like they're the 49ers. So, yeah, I think if you are going to be able to steal one from Buffalo early, it's nice to have them in MetLife. But yeah, JJ being not 100% would definitely hurt. Yeah, Alan, they're definitely a talented team. They got Bucky, Evans, Ibuka, Kate Otten. I know he's a little bit hurt. He should be fine. Yeah, they definitely have a plethora of weapons. They have a good defense as well. It's not going to be an easy game. I'm going to be in attendance there, so I hope that there's at least a chance they can sniff, competitiveness, and I don't want to see them get blown out in Tampa Bay. That flight home will absolutely suck. Nate, what's up with you, bro? I appreciate you. Morning, Ice, Mochas, and DT. Hell yeah. Thank you for joining, Nate. I appreciate you. Always love seeing Nate in the chat. Mr. Gorilla Salad says, if I've ever watched Jets football, I haven't before, actually. This will be my first season watching Jets football. Really, really optimistic about it. You'd expect Rodgers to throw for 6 yards. I think that meant touchdowns. 6 touchdowns and 400 yards week 1. Yeah, I don't fall into this. This is what I'll categorize as the Jake Asman week 1 PTSD fear. Rodgers throwing it all over the yard against us. I guess my only, not my only counterpoint, but my very first counterpoint is, okay, who is he throwing it to? Because I think across the board, the Jets match up really well against the Steelers skill position players. And we'll go into it a little bit deeper this week when I do my season preview and the game preview. But across the board, the Jets match up really well against the Steelers skill positions. And Rodgers is known traditionally to have slow starts, especially considering the fact that he's on a different team, right? So you have Sauce hopefully shadowing DK Metcalf. You have Brandon Stevens going up against Roman Wilson. And then you have Michael Carter against Calvin Austin, right? Those are the top 3 receivers for the Steelers. And then you have a guy like Tony Adams or Malachi Moore or Andre Sisco covering the tight end, whether it's Freiermuth or Johnny Smith. And I think that you have a good, pathway to lock it down where Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be overly, dominant through the pass game. I think what interests me the most about the Steelers offense is if they go real heavy, right? If they go 13 personnel, how can the Jets match up against that by putting more linebackers on the field? I don't think that's where the Jets want to live. I think the Jets want to live more in nickel formations where they can have Michael Carter on the field instead of a guy like Jamin Davis or Kiko Malinois, their rookie at linebacker. So I would say when the Steelers are in heavier personnel, how does that work? That would, make me a little bit more nervous. But if the Steelers want to sit back there and spread 11 personnel looks, I really like the Jets' chances of being able to stop them. And our edges versus their tackles should be a dominant matchup for the Jets, just like it should be for the Steelers going the other way, right? Highsmith and Watt should have their day, against Fashanu and Membu. But I think on the inverse side too, we should have our way with McDonald and Jermaine versus Broderick Jones, and I think it's Troy Fontenot. So I like our edges versus their tackles, but I'm more worried when they go head personnel with the Steelers, because how do the Jets match up against that? Nate Dogg says, DT, are you concerned about mesh routes, rub routes, and the lack of in-game practice we've had doing so on first down, etc.? Last few years, all eyes on the quarterback. So you can probably speak to this more because you were at more of the practices. I didn't attend any of the practices this training camp session, but if there were, opportunities in the preseason for Justin Fields to pull it and go, or pull the ball out of the mesh point and throw the RPO, he clearly didn't do that during the preseason. So I don't know if they did it during practice enough, but I would anticipate if you're playing against a heavy man defense, you're going to try to come out throwing the ball using these mesh routes and rub routes to get Garrett Wilson open in space. And then it's going to lighten up the defense, right? So I think I'm concerned, yes, because we haven't seen it, but I'm also not terribly concerned because if they come out that first drive against Pittsburgh and they prove that they want to stretch the field or, throw the ball against their man coverages, I think they can still, have a little bit of success doing it. But if they didn't do it in practice, and you would know, again, more than I would being there, it's a little bit tough to say with confidence that they're just going to be able to turn it on in the regular season. Hey now, Jake Asman in the chat with a $2 super chat. Dylan Tereman for life, baby. The Dilly Goat. I appreciate you, Jake. Yes, the Dilly Goat. He lives. I appreciate you tuning in on a Sunday morning, and we will be tuning in to Jake in just about a half hour here. So really excited. Thank you, Jake, for your super chat. That is much, much, much appreciated. Yeah, Alan, that's what I said. Steelers linebacker, tight ends versus the Jets linebackers does not give me a ton of confidence. I'm a little bit worried myself about that, because if they go Darnell Washington, Jonnu Smith, and Pat Freiermuth on the field, how do you combat that exactly with the Jets? Oh, and here we go. Jake again gifting a membership in the chat. Let's see who it went to. It went to Charleston Jets Rube. So thank you, Jake, for the gifted membership, and welcome Charleston Jets Rube to the A1 Since Day One community. I hope you enjoy. I did put out a members only video for you guys all to check out. I put that out Friday, I believe, just a quick 10 minutes on some of the Lions offense and what I think the Jets could take from their time, from Angstrand's time in Detroit, and apply to Justin Fields and the Jets. And another one, Connor Long, entering the A1 Since Day One community. I greatly appreciate it, Connor. Thank you so much for all of your support. You are you're on your way, man. You're on your way to taking our job. You put out incredible content yourself, and I always love talking Jets football with you. Appreciate that, Connor. Back in the States now, I believe, no longer in Italy. So our international Jets content creator is back in the contiguous 48 states. Geez, I almost don't know how many states that we have. Let's see. Alan says, Arthur Smith has to take advantage of the middle of the field with 13 personnel. Smith and Freiermuth are tough matchups. Yeah, we've seen it. Jonnu Smith single-handedly killed us on tight end screens against Miami. So that's you're speaking exactly what I'm talking about. I am definitely nervous about their heavy personnel. Addison in the chat, I appreciate you tuning in all the way on West Coast time. It's early for Addison, but appreciate you waking and baking with us this morning, Addison. Nate says, never touched pavement in my life. I assume this means you've never fallen off your bike. I took this as Nate needs to touch more grass, but I think you're talking about more about your bike here. All right, a couple more, then we'll get out of here. Gil says, I predict low scoring, somewhat boring, but I expect to have exceptional clock management, at least 2 takeaways, and winning in old school Jets fashion with a 47-yard game winner by Folk, 17-14 Jets. Yeah, if I had to predict a schedule or a score right now, I'd be right in this range, right? 17-14, 17-13. I do think an emphasis on taking the ball away from opposing offenses is going to be key for the Jets. They proved it in the preseason that they were able to get interceptions, fumble recoveries, even a special teams fumble, which was great. So you have to be able to take advantage of the takeaways whenever you get them, put your offense in a shorter field situation. But yes, the biggest thing of your entire comment that I'm looking for is exceptional clock management. I don't want to see, a delay of game after a timeout like we saw with Rob Saleh, or taking the play clock all the way down to 3, 2, 1 seconds before snapping the ball, and just having that, opening for more of a pre-snap penalty, whether it's holding or false starts or illegal formations. Like, those little things are definitely going to be what I'm watching for, but clock management is certainly important. When the Jets have the lead, what does it look like? When the Jets are playing from behind, what does it look like? Tempo, no matter, do we try to keep our guys, fresh with a big rotation? So the clock management and roster management, I guess I'll add too, are definitely the 2 things that I'm looking for. Let's see what else we got here. Addison says, waking bacon and chilling with Dylan. I appreciate it, man. I have depleted all of my stash, but I go back to New Jersey this weekend for week 1, so I will be replenishing as soon as I get there. So we just got to make it through this week, but I wish I could be waking and baking with you, Addison. Alan says, continue the B- analysis. You have replaced a kid whose team came down here to Texas and won a 14-10 opener. I don't understand that second part of the reference, but I appreciate you, Alan, and I hope you have a good rest of your Labor Day weekend. Charleston says 23-19 Jets. If the Jets can score 23 points against this Steelers defense, I will be super impressed. Oh, now we have a gifted membership, a 5-spot from our boy Nate Dogg. So let's open up the YouTube streets again and see who they went to. Let's see. We got Addison getting a membership from Nate. Party with Peg and Artie, Kyle Clifton, Stack, and Mike Rubino, all members, thanks to our guy Nate in the chat. Thank you so much, Nate, and welcome to the A1 Since Day One community for all of you. A lot of heavy hitters here, a lot of regulars to the show. So thank you, Nate, for the gift, and thank you all, the 5 who received them as well. We do have... Wow, we got memberships blowing up. We got Gil, new member of the channel. Thank you, Gil. I appreciate it. Another gifted 5-spot. Our guy, Jake Asman, coming through. Let's see who got those. Taylor Sterling gifted a membership from Jake. Sharon McLean, shout out to you, Sharon. Thomas Gannett, D Van G, and J Dubs, all members of the A1 Since Day One community. Thank you so much, Jake. I appreciate that. You are one of the best supporters that I have on YouTube so far. I feel like anytime I bother Jake with a question, I have to apologize in advance, but he always answers my questions, and I greatly appreciate him for that. So everything that you've passed along to me on these YouTube streets are definitely much appreciated, Jake, and thank you. Ray Winter becoming a new member as well. Thank you so much, Ray, and welcome to the A1 Since Day One community. With all of these memberships coming in, I'm going to have to put out a new members only video today. So I'm going to have to go back into the film room and find some more stuff to put out. Thank you guys so much. This is incredibly awesome. I appreciate this more than I can put into words right now. This is awesome. Rick Kent, the legend, another 5 spot. Who did these memberships go to? Jaden D'Angelo, Rick Kent, he gifted himself a membership. Look at that, a nice little twofer for the legend. Jake Asman becoming a member, so he gifted and then he was gifted. And Bobble Nick and Robin Boy Wonders. So shout out to the 5 newest members of the community. We're booming right now with A1s since day one today. Thank you all so much for your viewership. This is truly incredible, and I will have to think of new film ideas, new ways to bring you exclusive content to the A1 since day one community. So thank you all so much. Nate with a $5 super chat. Shout out, Nate. DT is the rare content creator that admits when he doesn't know something rather than BS it. And it gives credit to where he finds info as it should be. Yeah, so I'm always going to try to cite my sources as best as possible. I've admitted this several times. I'm not the smartest person on YouTube. I don't wish to be the smartest person on YouTube. Whenever I have a guest on the show, I would hope that they're, smarter than me and they can enlighten me a little bit about this team. So I'm always trying to find new ways to be informative, but I'm never going to sit here and just BS my way through stuff. Like, it's just not going to be me. And you can tell immediately if I don't know what I'm talking about, you'll know. It'll be all over my face. It'll be all over my analysis. I'll just kind of talk in circles. It's not something I love doing. So the amount of prep work that I try to do for these videos is way more content that I talk about in the videos. So like I have 3 pages of notes for most videos, and I usually talk about a page and a half of it. But I want to make sure that if a chat comes in from somebody who, has a really good opinion or a topic that they want to talk about, I want to at least be able to give them some information. So I take a ton of notes each show, and I try not to just unload my notes, but I also try to have it ready because I don't want to look unprepared. And you guys you smell that out right away, right? Players can sniff out a bad coach. You guys in the chat can sniff out bad content. So Nate, I appreciate the kind words and the $5 super chat. I'm always going to try to do right by you guys. So thank you again. Charleston says, if I'm ever in Charleston, I'll hook you up. Dude, I wish, man. That's like a 4-hour drive to go to Charleston. But I did just learn about a place called Cherokee, North Carolina, that's Indian reservation land, which will allow me to it's a 2-hour drive for me, and I can go to dispensaries there. I appreciate it, Charleston. But that's just a bit of a drive. Like, that's like a weekend trip if I were to come out there. Kyle Clifton just says Fialco in the chat. I don't know if this is in reference to something else that I missed in the chat, but I think that's also hilarious. B. Shep says Justin Fields is elite. He's an elite runner, right? He's definitely an elite athlete. I just don't know how much of an elite passer he's going to be. And I want to see him be elite in the areas we know where he is, and then just be adequate in the other areas, right? Just be an adequate passer. If your deep ball passing is great, then I think that's more of the expectation for Fields. But the short to intermediate stuff, the timing-based passing, that's the stuff that really needs to be honed in by Fields. All right. I see you guys in the chat discussing who gets whose memberships. I think that's hilarious. Yo, Holmes, shout out to you in the chat. I appreciate you tuning in. Ray Winter says, I'm on a historic run since his Jake Asman show draft performance. He deserves it. Thank you so much. That was definitely one of my favorite streams to do. The entire 5.5 hours I did on Jake's stream for day 2 or rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL draft. That was certainly a ton of fun. Everybody that tuned into that one was great. Looking forward to all the draft coverage that's going to be upcoming on my channel and obviously on Jake's channel too, being a weekly guest on his show. So thank you, Ray. I appreciate it. And it has been the amount of love and support that I've gotten on this channel since leaving Jet Nation has just been, I can't even put it into words. I think, and this is going to sound weird, but the exposure I've received since leaving Jet Nation has just been incredible. Something I couldn't even predict when I left Jet Nation, when I made that decision. So I really appreciate it. All 22, Drew. Yeah, man, I'm going to have to hit you up. We're going to have to get you either on the pod or we're going to have to do something, but I'm going to have to get your insights about this defense and how it compares to Salah's. I'm really intrigued by all our conversations on Twitter back and forth. So I'll definitely be hitting you up about some film work, and we can definitely talk defensive scheme very soon. Christopher says, dominate time of possession, get downhill with the running game are the keys to victory for week 1. I will go a step further and say that's the keys to victory from weeks 1 through week 18 if you're the New York Jets. Dominate time of possession. We saw it work in the preseason. Obviously, the Packers didn't really show up. But you got to dominate time of possession, keep your defense fresh, ready to go. And that's how you win almost every game. And then if you manage to get to the playoffs, defense and run game is going to be your bread and butter. So thank you, Chris, for that one. Rich says, get the likes up. Absolutely. Smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button. We're on the road to 1,000 subs. As you can see in the byline here, we were just over 850 when we started the stream. Hopefully we're closer to our goal of 1,000. Charleston says, lucky to have you, my friend. $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Charleston. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is one of the best communities out there. I've said it numerous times, not just Jets, not just sports. Honestly, one of the best communities on YouTube, right? I don't want to say I'm a big YouTube consumer, but I consume a good amount of YouTube, and I always look at their comment sections, and, I try to, again, take pieces of everybody's game. I watch, multiple streamers on YouTube, whether it's, video games or sports talk or non-sports talk, and I try to take a little bit of everybody's. So I definitely try not to copy anybody one for one, but there's definitely elements of a lot of people's games in my streams. So I appreciate that. Yo, Holmes says, I'm in Cherokee all the time. World Series of Poker, baby. Hell yeah. Whoa. Stop the show. G-Man the Prophet. $50 banger super chat. Holy shit, man. Thank you so much. This is beyond words. He says, G-Man the Prophet has spoken to all you faithless individuals who are shopping for a quarterback. I've seen the vision of the field of dreams. His time has come, and you all will eat crow. It has been written. All rise, stand down. G-Man the Prophet, thank you so much. Like, this is incredible. A 50 spot. And he followed it up and doubled down with the Justin Fields optimism too. Absolutely love this. This is incredible. I'm not fully there. I'll be completely candid, right? I'm not there yet with Fields, but I do have that optimistic lean with my analysis for now, right? If we get to week 4 and it looks like shit, I'm going to take my fan hat off and just give it to you straight up as an analyst. But for right now, you have to be a little bit optimistic, right? I feel like the coaching, the creativity, the combination of the talent and the fact that they know where the strengths lie of this offense, I am certainly fired up about this. This is awesome. Hopefully we can just keep pushing that future quarterback draft talk down the road because Justin Fields is solidifying himself as the guy. But G-Man, thank you so much. This is greatly appreciated. And this is a truly, I don't have words for this. This is amazing. This is awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Bang. Let's go, Nate. Big Mike Breen in the chat. Hell yeah. Yeah, Rick can draft. Let's play the season first. Exactly. Let's just hope that all our guys can keep pushing that draft talk down the line. And maybe in the first round next year, we're drafting a defensive tackle or a wideout and not a quarterback. Eli says, damn DT, early start to the day. Yeah, I'm up at like 7:30 every day, even on the weekends. I try not to sleep in. I hate sleeping in. I feel like if the sun's out, I have to be up. But yeah, I'm definitely an early riser, and I was waiting patiently for Boy Green to get off, and I saw Jake was going live at 10:30, so I had to get in where I can fit in. So appreciate you tuning in, Eli, and enjoying your morning. Hopefully, watching some DT. Yeah, G-Man Bomb is right, Jake. That was incredible. So appreciated. Jake says, I'm going to be hitting the strip club in South Carolina after this show. It's funny, when I first moved to South Carolina, I was with my now ex-wife, and we lived in an apartment complex that literally the fence was on the property line of a strip club. So every time I walked my dog, I got to like walk past the strip club. They're not really my thing, strip clubs, to be honest. Like I'm more of a why look if I can't touch kind of guy. I know it might come off a little weird, but I'm definitely more of the conventional. I would rather just take a girl on a date rather than go to the strip club. But yeah, we will certainly be throwing dollars today. Absolutely. Let's see what else we got. Charleston says he better spend that wisely. Hey man, I'll be making a trip to Cherokee, North Carolina with some of this money. That's for sure. No, a lot of this money is going to go towards paying my subscriptions for all the football stuff that I do. That's kind of first and foremost. A lot of this money is also going to go towards creating some cool DT merch, which I am in talks with a guy down here in South Carolina who will make shirts for me. So certainly ready for that. Rick Kent says, lunch on Dylan, everyone. Yeah, if you guys want to meet me at Chick-fil-A, I'll buy lunch for everybody today if you meet me at Chick-fil-A. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate everybody spending my money for me. Thank you, guys. Elite pocket watchers. This is truly awesome. Thank you again to G-Man. Thank you to everybody, honestly. Everybody who's super chatted, everybody who has sent in gifted membership. We had a ton of gifted. Let's see, we had 15 gifted, 16 gifted memberships at least today. 17. Yeah, we had 17 memberships gifted, and then we had about 5 people sign up on their own. Nate says, I'm going to be shopping at Bougie Dispensary soon. Yeah, man. Like I said, I'm coming up to New Jersey next week, so I'll be hitting up my local dispensary for sure. I'm tired of smoking CBD down here in South Carolina. Nate, the advertisement of a lifetime. I told 2 people in my coffee shop wearing FSU gear about your YouTube at Ricky New York Live. Yeah, shout out to Ricky. That stream was pretty fun last night. I could only stay awake for so much of it after. Again, it was just a long day of watching football, but I'm glad that you were fired up, Ricky, and I hope Florida State keeps bringing you some optimism because hopefully the Jets can do the same. Let's see. I'm way behind in the chat. Holy crap. Yo Holmes called me out. He said I didn't walk my dog. I absolutely walked her right past the strip club. Eli. I'm not gonna put that one up on the stream, but that's a good one, Eli. For the right price, I'm sure you could do a lot. Nate. Oh my god, I am a little bit behind in the chat, but you guys are truly hilarious. Charles walks his dog 4 times a day to pictures of Carly. Jesus Christ. Shout out Charles. He used to be a subscriber of this channel. I'm not sure if he still is. I said some slightly harsh things to Charles in Jake's chat the other day, but don't unsubscribe to people's channels just because you're mad at the chat. Jake didn't do anything to him. Nick didn't do anything to him. I don't think I did anything to him, so. Nate, dude, I'm with you. I'd rather smoke CT. I'm not saying I do it a lot. I'm just saying, like, I get a little restless at night. You gotta do something. Yeah, dude, I could buy THCA. It's just none of it is the same. None of it works. None of it works. So if it ain't the real thing, I don't really want it, to be honest. Addison, all the smokers are outraged. Now, I didn't mean to do it. It's not like I purposely like planned to run out of weed a week before I was supposed to. Maybe I'm just a little bit paranoid about this Jets team. I'll have anxiety. I gotta relax. Jesus, all the Charles talk. All right, we're gonna end it on that, on the Charles talk. Jake should have just started going live as well. It's 10:30. I greatly appreciate. Oh my God, you guys are killing Charles. I appreciate everybody in the chat for tuning in. Every single person who gifted a membership, became a member themselves, super chatted today. Like, this is awesome. This is one of the best streams so far. You guys are amazing. A1 since day one. There's a reason I call you that. You guys are the best of the best. I'll see most of you guys over in Jake's chat in just a couple minutes. But wanted to come on and give my thoughts about the rushing attack and what I think we can lean on. Peg and Artie, thank you. Eli, thank you. Taylor says, DT, I'm in Greenville. Where are you at? I'm in Spartanburg, man. I'm like 30 minutes away from you. Hit me up, Taylor. We'll get together if you're over in Greenville. I'm quick trip down 85, and I'll come see you, man. I appreciate that. Hit me up, and we'll plan something. Charleston, thank you. Yo, home, for real. Help me out. Taylor, if you could help me out, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys in Jake's chat. Have a great rest of your Labor Day weekend. Try not to drink too much, but just drink the right amount. And THC over CBD is how we're going to end it on here. The next tee time, Eli. Like I said, I might go out and play 9 holes right now because it's the last weekend before Jets football. The next stream hopefully will be tomorrow on my channel, Buffalo Jet Fan. He will be joining me 7:30, but also check out Nick Shine's show tonight at 8 o'clock. I will be the guest putting a bow on the preseason for the Jets. Appreciate everybody tuning in. You guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be back on the feed shortly. And until next time, JETS, 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 Jets.